Hi, students. It's Professor Kelly. I hope you're all doing well. I wanted to just get into your most recent discussion on Adichie's essay, We Should All Be Feminists. And I'm just going to take, I don't know, 5 minutes, a little over 5 minutes, let's say, and just kind of walk through with you. Oops, sorry. Walk through with you on the different ideas and insights that you shared. First of all, because I'm trying to be brief here, I wish I could comment on each and every post. I just want to say I appreciate so much your level of academic professionalism, the way that you acknowledge each other, the way that you acknowledge each other's viewpoints. Some of you even pointed out that talking about gender can be uncomfortable, and I like that you acknowledged that, and you were just so incredibly courteous and professional with each other. So that's awesome. You also all made excellent points. So let's get started and talk about the essay. So Eliza, again, also, sorry, I want to preface this by saying, since we don't meet in person, and many of us haven't put in the pronunciation, use the pronunciation function in Canvas, I might mispronounce your name. And if I do, I would love it if you would message me on the side and just let me know how to say your name. So in the future, I can say it correctly. I'm going to do my best. I also want to preface this discussion by saying that I'm going to refer a lot to male and female, or man and woman, but I'm also incredibly aware, and that's simply just to contextualize Adichie's essay, since she's talking about feminism and she's pointing out experiences that she herself, who identifies as a female, has had with men. But we all know that we in this class, or people who we know out in the world, identify as male, as female, as non-binary. So there, I fully acknowledge the spectrum that gender now holds and appreciate it. So I'm just going to be using male and female as I talk about the essay, so that we can really look at her point and look at the way that she talks about it. All right. Having said all of that, Eliza, you basically started off, thank you for starting off the discussion. You started to talk about how when we live with patterns and stereotypes from since the day we're born, it makes us believe that certain things are normal. And I feel like that's a really great start to this discussion. You're absolutely right. If your mom was you grew up with a mom in your home, and she was a stay-at-home mom, and your dad went off to work, right? That was your first representation of the kind of stereotypes that we really have to often question if that's not something that we want to do. So I appreciate you pointing that out. Thank you. Let's see. Let's keep going here a little bit. Let's see. Oh, Brianna, I love that you pointed out very honestly that the word feminist sounds mean to you. You're obviously not, other people talked a lot about that too, that the word feminist made them cringe or made them uncomfortable. I think somebody later in this discussion said the word made them feel ashamed. And I think what we need to examine, now that we're scholars and we're talking about feminism, is the word itself, why it's so incredibly loaded. Why does it have this negative connotation? Why is it bad to want equality for all genders? And so we really have to think about that. I want to point out too that one reason it could fill us with, I don't know, embarrassment or shame, has to do with this inequality that we're trying to get at. It's almost like you're asking for too much by wanting this kind of equality. Oftentimes I had another student in my other 1C section basically say he wished we didn't need the word at all, that it could be the norm that we have equality. Well, yes, I would love that too. But the truth is that we don't. And when something isn't happening, it's important to name it. And the people who name it are often going to be shamed by the people who don't want to give up the power, right? And so in order for harmoniousness and equality to exist, people that have been holding on tightly to a specific type of power are going to have to give it up. and they're not going to give it up without a fight. And I think that's one part of that fight is shaming people into wanting these things. It's shaming women for wanting power, really, for wanting more money, right? For wanting a say in what they do and what types of jobs they take. So it's so hard for me to talk about this through a screencast in 5 minutes. Obviously, if we were in a classroom, we could spend all of class discussing this. Again, the word itself, what it connotes, what is it that, why does it make us feel so many things? So I'm really glad you brought that up. And I'm already over my 5 minutes, but I'm going to just keep going a little bit more here. Emily, you pointed out that you have always viewed the term feminism or feminist in a positive way. And so I'm older than many of you in this class. I grew up in the 90s, or I was a teenager in the 90s. And I went to an all-girl high school. And so that gave me a really kind of different take on the word feminist as well. So I too grew up believing it was a positive thing and something that I wanted to identify with. And so there are a few of you who mentioned that you grew up in a household where being a feminist was celebrated. So I'm finding that interesting as well. And again, earlier in the semester, week 1, I talked to all of you about examining your worldview. And I think we could all do that with the word feminist. Depending on where we grew up, who our families were, where our families came from, what type of school we went to, that's all going to play into how we feel about this word. I think what's interesting, though, is that whether or not you liked the word going into this essay, Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie presents such a well-rounded argument, and she states her points very clearly, offers a lot of support that it looks like the majority of us ended up agreeing with her. And so I found that interesting as well. Going into it, we didn't like the word, we did like the word, but it sounds like we all really appreciated and agreed with her argument. Let's see, I'm gonna keep scrolling here a little bit. I've already read all of them, but I've just taken some notes on things that I want to point out to you guys. Oh my goodness, let's see here. Amy, I'm going to stop here with you because I think you mentioned that we as a society have already improved in regards to feminism and equality, and I couldn't agree with you more. I think you're absolutely right. I think when we talk about issues affecting gender, affecting race, we really have to see these types of movements more as a process and not as having an end point. I don't know if we're ever going to reach true equality, but I really certainly believe in the process, and I think that over time things continue to get better. And again, we're really talking about feminism in regards to, well, even though Ngozi doesn't, we in this class are talking about it in a very American context. And so I would agree, as far as the United States goes, we have come quite far. So that was a really good point. I'm glad you brought that up. Oh, Sakara, you shared a little bit about your life, and I appreciate that too. You basically said that when you have been kind of outspoken and you haven't followed these very gendered norms that you were supposed to follow, you said it wasn't that I went out of the way to pick fights or to seek out these discussions. It was simply that I was surrounded by people who had very different opinions and worldviews as me. I was labeled as the loudmouth feminist. And I think that's incredibly important to point out, right? That even speaking your mind often can, and again, the word feminist in this case that you're explaining was meant to be an insult. So I think even something like as simple as speaking your mind, we have to realize sometimes isn't the norm for women, right? For females, for people who identify as females. So it's important for us, I think, to recognize that happens a lot. And then I really just liked this line that you had here that says, we smother expression in exchange for appearance. In the previous discussion I was going through in my other class, somebody said that historically and today, women are seen as accessories for men. And that just reminded me of what that student had said. Okay, so I'm gonna try to kind of close up here and see. Oh, let me see. Ryan, I find Ryan in here. You brought up the term misandry, which I really appreciate. And you were right. Feminism, and it's unfortunate that feminism and misandry have been conflated, because feminism is not about hating men, right? It's actually the opposite. It's about accepting and celebrating everyone. And so I'm really glad that you said that. That was a great point. Um, Almost to the bottom here, almost to all my notes. Angelina, I like that you brought up social media and how much of our opinions are informed by social media. And you basically said, like, I was taught feminists were bad and that they were anti-men when I first started using social media. And that's just a reminder for us. We're going to talk about media a lot in the coming weeks, but the way that so many of our beliefs, our worldviews, are shaped by social media is so important for us to examine. And then, okay, so I'm almost done. Melissa, you're the one who said that the word feminist made you feel ashamed. And it's interesting to me how this word just brings up so many feelings in us. Alex, you brought up a point about our leaders, some of our female leaders who are representative in the feminist movement, are extremely aggressive towards all men in general, just for being men. I wished that when you say something like that, I feel like it's really important to actually then give the examples. I haven't seen that. And so again, I feel like this is important for us to remember too. Like, that's a big point that you're bringing up. So share the examples. What female leaders act this way and make men feel this way? I really want to know. Okay, students, I definitely went over 5 minutes, but I feel like this is an important conversation to have. I hope it continues. I look forward to reading our first discussion this upcoming week on The Handmaid's Tale. You're all doing a great job, and we will talk soon. Thanks.